We never know what we may find, who we may become on the other side of whatever change that we're facing.
Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. If you are watching on my YouTube channel, or I guess if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you might notice a difference in the audio as well. But the video is different, the audio is different. My amazing fiance went and bought me a new camera. I will put the description of it here because I can't remember the name of it, but it's a whole pack with a clip-in microphone and a stand and just so much more equipment to really upgrade the quality of my content. Sidebar, if you are looking for qualities in a partner long term, somebody who wholeheartedly believes in your dreams and your goals, big green flag. Big green flag. So shout out to Matt for upgrading the quality of this show, because it's going to look a little bit different from here on out. I will just caveat that by saying that the episode coming out next week is going to look the way that all the other episodes have looked previously with the old microphone and the old camera setup, because I did record that episode this morning before he gave this one to me. So I'm keeping it. I kind of did that episode a little bit off the cuff. It wasn't totally scripted, so I don't want to go back and redo it and take away from the quality of the original version of it. So we'll leave it as is and then continue the videos like this going forward. So if you are listening to this episode the day that it airs, it is Easter Monday. So I hope everybody had an amazing Easter weekend. If you saw your family or if you were home, no matter what you're doing, I just hope you had a relaxing, amazing time. So keeping on the theme of Easter and spring, we're going to be talking about change and embracing kind of new beginnings in your life. So whether you are going through some sort of hardship and trying to overcome that, whether you are starting something like a new job or moving to a new country, or if you're just looking for a way to kind of freshen things up in your current life, we're just going to talk about some strategies to help you embrace change, work with change, and integrate it into a part of your life so it's an easy transition from where you currently are right now. So I decided to do this episode today because I think it is very much in line with this time of year, the time that you're listening to this episode. I personally am not a religious person, but for the people that are, Easter does kind of symbolize new beginnings and resurrection and victory over death and those kind of themes. And at the same time, spring is kind of that feeling of change and new beginnings. We're all coming out of that kind of winter slump that we've all been in. For anybody like me who's up in Canada, we are very happy to see the sun and to see the grass and see some greenery on the trees after months of just cold and snow. And so this is very much a time of fresh starts and new beginnings. So I'm trying to keep on that theme with things. So embracing change in your life, whether it's big or small, can be a really scary thing because we love to stick with what is comfortable and what is familiar. And so embarking on anything that requires us to step out of our comfort zone and change the things that we're doing, be in a new environment, it's going to feel really uncomfortable and scary initially. And our tendency is to kind of avoid things like that because it's hard, it's unfamiliar. We want to just kind of stick to the routine and stick to the things that we're familiar with. And so it can be really difficult to take change on in a positive way. It can feel really negative a lot of the time. It can feel like this really scary disruption to your day-to-day life. So my goal for you with this episode is to start approaching change not with fear, but with curiosity. Because we never know what we may find, who we may become on the other side of whatever change that we're facing. So a perfect example of this, a caterpillar has no idea what a butterfly is before it goes into that cocoon and becomes one, right? So if it had the foresight to know that that's what it was going to be, it would probably fear all of that change and fear all of the unknown, but it was really a positive and necessary part of its growth. And so it just like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, or really anything in this world, we are not meant to be just stagnant and fixed in one place for our entire lives. We are meant to change and evolve and transform with the seasons of our life as they come. And so change is a really necessary and valuable part of our life for allowing us to adapt to our surroundings and continue to experience the most out of life no matter what situations are coming our way. And the thing about change is that it's kind of inevitable. Whether you want it to happen or not, your life is going to change over the years. Your daily experiences are going to change. Who you are as a person is going to change. And if you are more open and willing to embrace change and kind of ride that wave as it comes, it will allow you to step into those new experiences with a lot more ease and will improve your overall mental well-being because there's not this sense of resistance with everything that's coming your way. We're kind of willing to take on the change and the personal growth and see what is behind all these new doors. It creates this kind of sense of excitement going through our life with every changing thing. A quote that I saw that I really like that kind of helps describe this in a way is one from Rumi that says, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way, instead let life live through you." And so it kind of paints this picture of us not pushing back and not having resistance towards the change that comes our way and just opening ourselves up to whatever is coming and allowing whatever is to be what it is. And sometimes being willing to embrace the change and go along with that wave, even though it seems really negative in the moment, can lead you to some really amazing things. And I'll give you an example of this of somebody that I think a lot of us know. So Oprah Winfrey began her career as a TV anchor, and she was actually fired from that job. And that's a kind of negative change that I think a lot of us would take and shut down and be fearful of where to go. And it would feel like a really big roadblock, but instead what she did is she took it as an open door of opportunity and she pivoted and she began hosting her daytime talk show and moving into new areas, and she continues to adapt and grow with building things like her own network, and her ability to take advantage of these doors as they open and grab onto the opportunity as it comes is what has made her so successful through the course of her career. Had she taken that change of being fired early on and just kind of shut down and stopped embracing the opportunity, her career could have been an entirely different trajectory than it is now. So how can we better embrace change and be more willing to move through it in a positive and constructive way? So the first thing that we can do is to take some time to reflect on where we were before this change, who we were as a person, and what's been working and what hasn't. So kind of take an analysis of how things have been. Let's say, for example, you, like in Oprah's case, just got fired from a job and you are about to start a new one. That's a really huge change. That's a really huge shift in what your day-to-day life looks like. And so before you go into that next chapter, take a beat and just reflect on how you were showing up to this previous job. Reflect on the person that you were. Reflect on how you were interacting with others. What were some positives? What were some elements of that previous job that you really liked? What were some elements of it that you didn't? What kind of things do you want to keep going forward in your day-to-day life? And being able to kind of take this inventory of the things that you like and the things that you don't like, the things that you want to keep and the things that you don't, allows you to really create this next chapter into something that excites you and something that motivates you to move forward in a really positive way. The second thing that we can do to help move through change in kind of a more constructive way is to focus on what we can change and accept the things that we can't. So with anything in life, there is going to be a heavy mix of things that you are able to change and a mix of things that you are not. And sometimes we can get so stuck in rumination over the things that we really don't have any control over that it keeps us from making any progress with the things that we do. And so I'll give you an example of something that can be a really, really difficult change to go through. So let's say you have received a health diagnosis, something that impacts your life in the long term. There are going to be elements of that, no matter the diagnosis, that you cannot control. There are going to be things that are out of your hands, things that you can't change no matter how you approach your day to day. So things like test results. Maybe you're waiting for a follow-up with your doctor to see what the results of a specific test are, and you're feeling all of this anxiety over what could be and where to go based on that decision. What those results are is not something that you can change, but how you continue to show up in your day-to-day between now and the day that you get those results, that is what you have control over. Your mindset going into every day, how you approach your daily habits to help support your health in the ways that you have the ability to, those are things that you can control. And so I think in a situation like that, someone gets so caught up in rumination and anxiety over this one particular thing that it has a downstream effect to how they approach everything else. And they miss out on an opportunity to improve some other elements that may improve the overall picture. So take the time and try to, it may help to take some time and take your situation, write it down on a piece of paper, and separate out the elements that you can and the elements that you can't change. Make a very clear separation between what are the things I have control over and what are the things that I need to work on my mindset around and things that I need to work on accepting because I can't change them. And I think it's really valuable to do this kind of exercise and write it out, because then you can physically see it. You can physically see this separation between the two, and it makes it much easier to approach each of these issues. Because if you have a certain issue in your mind and you look at this separated table that you've made and you've identified it as an issue that you cannot change, then it's time to work on accepting that. You know that it's time to try and kind of shift your thinking around it instead of trying to change what it is. It'll shift your approach a little bit and make it a little bit easier to manage going forward. So the next thing we can do that can help move us through change in a bit more of a positive way is to think of the person that you'll be on the other side of that change. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have gone through a breakup recently. Let's say someone has ended a relationship with you and you are heartbroken and you're lost and you're not sure what to do in the moment. Although there's going to be a lot of negative emotions and sadness and fear and grief over what is happening, try to imagine who you want to be on the other side of this. What kind of person do you want to work towards being on the other side of this journey? As you move through this healing process, who do you want to work on becoming? And you can kind of make that your North Star as your thing to work towards, and it can kind of guide your daily habits and the ways that you show up for yourself, because this can become kind of an end goal that you're working towards. And it can create a little bit of a spark of motivation in the midst of something that's typically really difficult. So instead of dwelling just on the negativity of what is, we can start to focus on, maybe I want to be someone who travels more. Maybe I want to be someone who takes a pottery class once a week. Maybe I want to try eating a certain way that I wasn't able to in this relationship. So there's things that we can look for to create positivity and excitement within this really difficult thing. And the last thing we can do to help make change a little bit easier to approach and move through is to find little elements of comfort and familiarity. So having one big thing change doesn't mean that your entire life needs to change. You can keep little elements that bring you comfort and feel really familiar to you. So let's say you have moved abroad and you're living in a different country than where you grew up, and everything's unfamiliar, the house is unfamiliar, the people are unfamiliar, everything's new. What you can do is look for little moments of comfort and familiarity. So maybe this looks like bringing your favorite mug from back home and using that for your coffee every morning. Maybe that looks like bringing the pillows and bed sheets from your old bed back home and having that on the bed here. Maybe it looks like calling a friend that you used to talk to on a regular basis and checking in with them on that same interval, just to have that familiarity of someone that you're comfortable with. Bringing these little elements of things that were a part of your day-to-day already into this new chapter can make that shift feel a little bit more approachable. It can make it feel a lot more manageable, because we have these kind of anchor points to grab onto when we're feeling kind of lost in the sea of all the change, we can kind of grab onto these things that we're already very familiar with to ground us in the moment. So I think that's all I've got for you guys today. Those are kind of just a few things that I had in mind for helping embrace change, helping accept new beginnings, and make the most out of shifts in our life, because they're going to come. There is going to be so many changes and ups and downs and new chapters and new eras and new things in our lives. That is just the nature of it. We are meant to adapt and grow. So I would love to hear from you. Let me know if there is a change or new chapter that you are maybe stepping into. You can either tell me on my Instagram, you can tag me at Mindset Gym Pod, or let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear what's going on in your lives. And if you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.
If you like the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support allows this show to reach even more amazing people just like you, and it means the absolute world to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.